Imagine a world where your employer knows your stress levels before you do, where a grocery store predicts your next purchase with unsettling accuracy, and where the devices in your home are always listening, not maliciously, but patiently. If this sounds like science fiction, it's because we were trained to expect dystopias to announce themselves loudly with a bang. In reality, this one arrived quietly, wrapped in the promise of convenience, buried deep in terms and conditions, and normalized through repetition. This isn't a future we're approaching. It's the environment we are already breathing in. Most of us remember the first time it happened. That moment an advertisement appeared that felt way too specific to be a coincidence. You hadn't searched for it. You hadn't typed it. You might not have even said it out loud. You probably laughed, maybe took a screenshot, and told a friend that your phone was listening to you. Harmless. But that feeling, that quiet unease you just brushed aside, is the foundation of something much, much larger. We tend to imagine surveillance as something imposed on us. Cameras on street corners, microphones hidden in rooms, faceless observers watching from afar. But corporate surveillance works differently. It doesn't watch you from the outside. It builds a version of you from the inside out. Every click, every pause, every hesitation, every purchase, and every abandoned shopping cart becomes a signal. Over time, those signals form a behavioral blueprint, one that doesn't just reflect who you are, but predicts who you are likely to become. And that blueprint is more valuable than your name, your address, or your face. It moves freely, traded between systems that never even needed your permission to begin with. This didn't happen overnight. There wasn't one single moment where society agreed to be monitored around the clock. Instead, there were 1,000 small agreements, and each one seemed perfectly reasonable on its own. Loyalty cards that promised discounts, apps that offered convenience, smart devices that claimed to save us time. Each one asked for a little more of our data in exchange for a little more ease. Each step felt optional, but together they built an empire. What makes this system so effective is its subtlety. There is no single villain to point to, no central authority to confront. Surveillance has been outsourced to algorithms, automated processes, and predictive models. It doesn't feel like control because it doesn't forbid you from doing things. It just nudges. It suggests. It arranges the world around you so that the best choice just so happens to align with corporate interests. You are free to choose, but only within the carefully constructed boundaries that have been set for you. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the modern workplace. It used to be that employers measured your output. Now they measure your presence, your behavior, and even your emotional state. Software tracks your keystrokes, your mouse movements, your idle time, the tone of your voice, and your facial expressions during meetings. Others flag any deviation from your baseline productivity, no matter the cause. The language used to justify all this is always the same: efficiency, optimization, performance. But the reality is far more human and far more damaging. When workers know they are constantly being monitored, trust erodes, anxiety skyrockets, and ironically, productivity suffers. People stop experimenting. They stop pausing to think. They stop thinking out loud. The system has no room for grief, illness, burnout, or creativity. It only recognizes patterns. And when human complexity becomes an anomaly, it is treated as a problem that needs to be corrected. Outside of work, the exact same logic governs what we buy. Based on your habits, your routines, your emotional cycles, algorithms decide what you are most likely to want next and place it directly in your path. This isn't persuasion in the traditional sense. It's environmental control. The more accurate the prediction, the less it feels like influence, and the more it feels like your own intuition. Eventually, it becomes difficult to tell where your own preferences end and the system's suggestions begin. Over time, this creates a narrowing effect. The content, products, and ideas you're shown are filtered not to challenge you, but to retain you. You are shown what keeps you engaged, not what expands your understanding. This is how filter bubbles form not as prisons, but as comfort zones that slowly shrink. The world becomes more predictable, more familiar, more manageable. And in that manageability, something essential is lost. And all of this operates under the banner of consent. You agreed to this after all. The evidence is right there, buried in pages of legal language that was designed not to be read, let alone understood. Consent has become a formality, a checkbox, a barrier between access and exclusion. To participate in modern life is to accept terms that waive rights you didn't even realize were negotiable. Behind the scenes, an entire invisible economy is thriving. Data brokers companies you've never interacted with directly buy and sell fragments of your life, your location data, health indicators, your purchasing behavior, your psychological vulnerabilities. They don't need your identity. They only need enough signals to recognize you across different systems. This data moves faster than our laws can ever hope to follow. Most regulations were written for a world before real-time tracking, before machine learning, before behavior itself became a commodity. The true cost of this system is not just our privacy. It is uncertainty. It is the freedom to simply exist without being constantly measured, categorized, and optimized. When everything is tracked, everything becomes subject to improvement. And systems that are designed for pure efficiency do not tolerate unpredictability. They smooth out the edges. They eliminate friction. They quietly erase the outliers. The most unsettling aspect of corporate surveillance is not its reach, but its normalcy. It doesn't rely on fear. It relies on familiarity. It doesn't need to hide because it has convinced us that this is simply how the world works now. That resistance is impractical. That convenience is worth the trade. But this future is not inevitable. It is constructed. And anything that has been constructed can be questioned. Awareness is the first step, not paranoia, but attention. Understanding what data is being collected, how it's being used, and who really benefits from it. We can start by adjusting the default settings on our devices, questioning anything that's free, supporting transparency and regulations that actually reflect the realities of modern technology, not the assumptions of the past. These actions might seem small, but they matter because the system depends on our apathy to function smoothly. This is not a warning about what's coming. It's a description of where we are. The surveillance state most people feared didn't arrive wearing a uniform. It arrived as a service, and it asked politely. The question is no longer who is watching you. Thanks for watching. If this got you thinking, please consider subscribing for more videos like this. See you next time.